Good morning from Brightview Senior Living, Rolling Hills community here in the Baltimore area. My name is Jennifer Fitzpatrick and I'm the author of Cruising Through Caregiving, Reducing the Stress of Caring for Your Loved One, and I'm a longtime partner and fan of Brightview Senior Living. We are going to have a wonderful Facebook Live this morning to share with you ideas about what you need to look for during the holiday season for family caregivers, adult children, and other loved ones. I'm going to introduce our panel. First on our panel is Laura Stewart. Laura is the Certified Director of Assisted Living, and she has a master's degree in nursing administration from Notre Dame of Maryland. She's been the Executive Director of Brightview Perry Hall for 4.5 years and a nurse for over 20. She has 2 sons, aged 7 and 11, and lives in Bel Air. Next on our panel is Susie Elder Murphy. Susie Murphy is the owner of Deborah Levy Elder Care Associates, an independently owned and operated aging life care management practice serving the Metro DC area. She has 25 years of experience working with the company, which just celebrated its 30th anniversary. Susie is a certified care manager accredited by the National Academy of Certified Care Managers and served as the president for the Mid-Atlantic chapter of the Aging Life Care Association in 2016 and 2017. Heather Wojcik is a certified dementia practitioner and has her bachelor's degree in psychology and sociology with a focus in gerontology from Towson University. She was the executive director of Brightview Towson for 5 years and has been the executive director of Brightview Whitemarsh since 2017. She is a certified director of assisted living and has her assisted living manager certification as well. And finally, last but not least, Ellen Platt. MED, CRC, CCM, is a certified rehabilitation counselor, certified case manager, and a certified aging life care manager through the National Association of Aging Life Care, National Aging Life Care Association. Welcome to our panel, and we'll jump right in and get started on what we need to be looking for during the holiday season. Ladies, thanks all for being here today. So thanks for being here for our panel. First question we have, and I'm going to ask Laura to take the first question. You all have many years of experience and many years of working around the holiday season with older adults and their families. What should adult kids look for during the holidays if they're visiting with their older loved ones, or maybe if their older loved ones are visiting with them?
So I think taking the opportunity of visiting for the holidays, especially if you may not live close to your parents anymore, it's important to very obviously take an idea of how they appear. Are they well kept, well groomed? How is their body odor? Have they been able to shower? Or could those signs show that they may need some assistance around the house with things? So some of those are like the very obvious things that you can notice about a person. Are their clothes washed? The appearance of their home when you walk in, are their habits the same in terms of housekeeping as well?
Great ideas.
I also think it's important to realize that subtle changes are also important to recognize. It's not always a major change that you might see. So small things, is mom, doesn't have the perm that she usually has, or her hair looks very different. The house that's always tidy may not be quite as perfect when you walk in. So sometimes it's really looking at very subtle changes, but you're seeing many subtle changes during the time that you're visiting.
So they can be very overt or a little bit more covert.
Sure. And also if they're visiting you and that's been a family tradition, does your house seem less familiar to them? They've always been hanging out in the den with the kids and now they're not quite sure, where everybody's gathering, even though they've been coming for a number of years and celebrating the holidays with you.
Yes, seeming less familiar with your home. That's a great point.
Yeah, and we often look at the instrumental activities of daily living, the things that you don't have to do every day, but things that are really important to be able to stay at home. Things like bill paying, getting groceries from the store, laundry, things like that. So you still need to do that to keep up with your day-to-day life, but it doesn't have to be done every day.
Absolutely. Anything else that we should be looking, whether, again, either overt or less obvious?
I think there are some spots that you could check to say, so mom and dad might look great, but check in their medicine cabinet. And how does that look? Do you see medicines that are disorganized or pills that are maybe not in their appropriate containers? Or open the refrigerator. Or is there expired food? Does it appear that, have they been able to go shopping, and do they have the things that they do need to get by day to day?
Great point.
Look in the cabinet, like the scorched pans or things being burnt and left, kind of hidden from sight, but as you start slowly looking at different areas.
That's a good one, and one that probably a lot of people haven't thought of, that scorched pan, leaving something on the stove for too long.
Yeah.
Anything else that we should be looking at? Just anything that's out of the ordinary for your loved one, anything that just seems off for them would be a red flag and a sign that maybe they're needing a little bit more help. And the holidays are a great time to observe that. Safety is always something that's on the mind of adult children and loved ones of older adults. So what sort of red flags would there be that maybe your loved one is in an unsafe situation this holiday season?
Driving is a big thing. That's part of their autonomy and their independence, but when you start seeing little dings and scratches on the car, or you're seeing tickets, parking tickets or speeding tickets or things like that, citations, might make you want to think that maybe we need to get some type of evaluation or check into that a little bit more.
And what kind of evaluation would you recommend?
Through the MVA, they'll do an evaluation. You can tap into your primary care physicians to get them to make a recommendation for that. It's a great way to go, so it takes the burden off of the family to take those keys away. It can be an objective evaluation.
Yeah, because even though you might notice it, your loved one oftentimes still looks at you as a kid, and if you're saying, oh, maybe you shouldn't be driving, getting an objective evaluation can be really helpful.
And
Right.
oftentimes the physician can recommend that, so they can work with the family to say, and give the kind of guidance on the MVA and what they can do, because you're right, a lot of parents don't want children saying, it's time for you to stop driving.
Right.
If the physician gets involved and then sort of almost mandates, that they go for that evaluation, and then it makes it a lot easier for the adult child to be able to have that conversation.
Great
Yeah.
point, Heather.
One of the other red flags that goes along with the driving piece is that maybe you find that they're getting lost in familiar areas, and that's a red flag.
And I would suggest trying to find an opportunity to let them drive you rather than offering for you to drive them, because then you really get a chance to see how they're driving.
Absolutely.
And whether or not you feel comfortable in the car with them. And even if you're not noticing problems, ARP offers a safe driver's class. And if you take that as a senior, you may even get a discount on your car insurance. So even just proactively introducing that topic, if you were looking to save some money on your bills, Mom, maybe you should take a class to be a good driver and save something on your insurance.
And what a great incentive, and it doesn't look like you're trying to tell them what to do, it's just a fun idea on how to save some money. Any other thoughts about red flags and safety? Anything besides driving, or?
Sure, I think it's important to watch your parents walk around, and how is their stamina in terms of walking? Are they able to help you in your home or theirs prepare that meal, and how are they getting around in their home? Is their gait shuffled or disturbed from the last time that you saw them? Or, many times people may be hesitant to report falling, but certainly you could ask if they've had a recent fall. Or do they have an unexplained bruise that may lead you to think that maybe they've fallen and may not just want to tell you about that fall. So I think assessing their stamina in walking and their ability to get around the house, to know whether maybe it's time to bring that walker in just for that added stability in terms of getting around their home.
And there can be so much reluctance when you suggest a walker or a cane, but it is something that can really help prevent problems.
Absolutely.
Heather?
Oh, I think just an environmental kind of safety check. Like as you do that walkthrough, as you watch them go up and down the stairs, what are those risks there? Do they have carpet on the stairs, or do they have little runners on the stairs that could lead to slipping? Do they have a secure handle on the wall as they're going up and down the stairs to hold on to? So just really a whole environmental check while you're there at their house to see if there's anything that really sticks out that could be made more secure for them to be able to navigate around.
So it's really not just about what your loved one looks like, it's more looking at their vehicle, looking at their home, looking at all the external as well to get that complete picture.
And that's especially important, when you pull up to the curb, what does their home look like? Is their lawn mowed? Is the front of the house, in repair? You don't want people to realize that there might be seniors living there, that could be a target in the community for unsafe. So you want to make sure that you're kind of assessing, are they keeping the house up to par in terms of its appearance.
Absolutely.
And if they're visiting you at your home, you may need to make some safety changes to your
Sure.
home, just because they're having some normal changes of aging, like more difficulty doing stairs or needing something in the bathroom to make them safer and more comfortable using your bathroom. So it's an opportunity for you to do a safety check of your house
Right,
as well.
yeah, for sure, because we're all getting older, and wouldn't it be nice if all of our homes were a little bit more safe for everybody that's there? Anything else that anybody would like to share about safety to look out for at the
I
holidays?
think you could also, like in the kitchen, look at those coffee pots that turn themselves off. A lot of, self-turning off appliances are often helpful. But you mentioned the bathroom, which is another huge safety area. So making sure the right grab bars are there, or if someone needs assistance in the actual shower with the grab bar or
Right.
outside of the shower, those type of things that often I think we don't think when we first go into the house that they may need, but as you sort of watch people maneuver, those could come up as well.
Great. What about some signs of memory? I think everyone's always concerned about their loved one's memory, and we're not talking about normal age-related memory issues. What would be something over the holidays that you might notice that is going on with memory? Maybe, Susie, we start with you.
Sure, so of course the most obvious one is telling the same story over and over again. And so that happens pretty frequently, and that can be a very typical sign. But even more concerning would be, say you're finishing up a meal and then talk about something else, and then the person says, so when are we gonna have dinner? And you just finished dinner. And that's really, if they don't remember a meal they've just finished eating, that's really a danger sign that there's something going on, that's a
Absolutely.
significant change. And that would lead again to a discussion with your mom or dad's doctor, and also really taking a close look at those medications, because it doesn't necessarily mean that there's a new disease process. It could be different doctors prescribing medications that shouldn't go together or aren't being taken correctly. And so I always encourage families not to leap to the conclusion that just because they're noticing a change, it's necessarily a dementia diagnosis.
So important, because I think a lot of times we jump to those conclusions if we don't have all of the facts. Ellen?
Some of the things we look at is how they're able to keep up with their schedule. It's really important to be able to get to the doctor's appointments and pull yourself together to be able to get out the door. And if you're seeing that they're missing appointments, forgetting appointments, you see Post-it notes stuck everywhere, you realize that they're canceling because they just can't pull it together in the morning to get out the door for an appointment, or you see overdue notices for bills or something like that. It makes you realize that those tasks that used to be a second nature are something they're struggling with now, so they may need a little bit of assistance or guidance or structure around getting those tasks done.
And not just forgetting the meal, it's also the next steps after that meal. I think a lot of times if people start to fumble, like if they're always very used to picking up the plate and going into the kitchen and things in the sink, but yet the meal's over and just sort of sitting there with a loss of not sure, am I getting up? What am I doing with this in front of me? So I think it's also looking at the steps of a process. So, there's lots of steps to everything that we do, brush your teeth, make the dinner, all of that. Can they follow the normal process of the steps after something they've been involved in?
I think when a person begins to have more progressive memory loss, you begin to see things that kind of don't make sense, and oftentimes we want to jump in and reorient them of things like, no, Mom, that's not right. But I grew up with my grandmother living with us who had memory loss, and we would find little nests around the home of a Campbell's soup can behind the curtains on the windowsill with things in there, and when you'd say, what's this about, Grandma? Well, I have no idea how that got there. So those types of things that don't really make sense to you that are around the house, or comments of, I have to get home to get my kids off the bus, and they don't have kids to get off the bus. So comments that might not make any sense, that you may want to say, no, that's not what's happening, and try to reorient them, but those can be signs that that person is having some memory loss as well.
Anything else that anyone would like to add to that?
I'd say also asking the same questions like the grandchildren. So, are you in school yet? Where are you going? And then 10 minutes later, are you in school yet? And where are you going? And also coaching other family members on how to respond if there's some new behavior that they're seeing when they're with their grandparents. And something seems a little bit different. Spending a little bit of time to talk to them about how to be patient and that it's okay if you have to remind grandma a couple times that you play soccer, not football, or whatever it may be that she's getting mixed up about.
And that's if we already know there's an existing memory issue.
But even if you're in that context.
Got it, okay,
And I'm saying
yeah.
for the first time, and then your son comes to you and is like, what's wrong with grandma? You know, she knows I play soccer. Last year, she came to my soccer games. Now she's always asking me about football. You can say, well, I'm not sure what's going on with grandma, but, you know, I'm gonna be talking to her doctor and coach them on just being patient and not, getting too upset with grandma if she's mixing some details up.
And Susie, that's really tough to do because if you yourself are worried and scared, and then you have to kind of talk to your kids and say, okay, don't make such a big deal out of it. It's a tall order, but it's a really good piece of advice. Anybody else want to add anything else?
I think sometimes sort of unexplained emotions or moodiness
Yes.
or even sometimes anger can be, you know, it's very frustrating, especially if you know that you are beginning to forget things or you're struggling with that as the person, your parent is struggling with that. You may find some moodiness or emotional imbalance that may be worrying to you, or you know, if you're not sure what's causing that, you could try to dig in to see, could it be related to confusion or memory loss.
Right.
Or perhaps one step further is maybe you see that in the afternoons, late afternoons or
Sure.
the evenings, so there may be some sundowning going on. A little more agitation, maybe some pacing, asking questions, kind of a little more unsettled than they were earlier in the day.
Anything that is normal that I know a lot of us are looking, is there a problem with memory? We hear so much about Alzheimer's and other dementias. What's normal that maybe families shouldn't really worry about too much if they see it's normal aging stuff?
Where did I put my glasses?
Where did I put my
Where
glasses?
did I put my phone? That pretty much happens, I would say, to everybody.
To everybody.
Sure, they had their
Right
glasses
here.
on their forehead, yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Anything else that's normal that wouldn't be too much of a red flag to worry about?
I think we all forget things,
Right.
but it's that ability to, you know, we always say to recall. So, you know, you can't remember the name or the place we were going to go to eat lunch, but within 10 minutes, they're like, oh, right, we were going to wherever that might be.
Right.
So you remember. So that's very normal for all of us, whether that's
Sure.
from stress or a memory or cognitive impairment. But when that comes back to you,
Right.
you know, that's pretty normal for everyone.
Yeah, forgetting people's names.
Right, right. Or having somewhat less stamina. My parents drive to see us every Thanksgiving and they're 86 and 87 years old. And my dad, at the end of the day, he'll be like, I am so tired. I don't know why I'm exhausted. It's like, you know, you drove 8 hours, Dad.
Right.
You're 86 years old. Like, it's okay.
Takes a
And-
toll.
Right, right. So to him, I think he isn't even noticing that something that he's been doing for so long just takes a little bit more out of him at age. He's very healthy, 86, but it still takes a little more energy than it did at 84, 80.
Definitely, definitely. What about if you have, maybe you're noticing that memory or cognition is not quite right, but you have other family members that are saying, oh, I was with her last week, she seems completely fine. And you spent several days and you're noticing a pattern. How do you talk to other family members about that?
So I think you really have to share the specific examples that you're seeing, because oftentimes someone in the family is in denial because it's just mom's normal aging process, and you know, oh, I'm with her all the time and she can do all this with me. But oftentimes we're also guiding or leading, like we're driving the car, we're picking the store we're going to, we're going to the restaurant where mom knows what to order from the menu. But when you really, you know, talk to your siblings or other family members about, okay, so let mom sort of take control and take the lead in this situation, is she able to then figure all of that out? Can she say, oh, we're going to this restaurant, or this is the store we're supposed to go to? So I think you have to be very specific in what you're seeing and then give the opportunity for another family member to maybe take that sort of a lead away from them as the family member and let the loved one sort of control the situation and see what the end result is.
Sometimes you have that with siblings that may not be as closely located, so you're doing lots and lots and lots for your parents and noticing these things, but they are still able to handle that once a month phone call to the sibling who lives farther away. So again, I agree, providing those detailed instructions. Invite them up for a visit. Come and take a vacation and say, I'm going away and you need to come up and fill in for all of the things that I'm doing, and let them experience that firsthand. Maybe an eye-opener as well.
experiencing it firsthand. You're exactly right. Anything else?
I would say as an aging life care manager, you know, what we're able to do is be that more objective person. And so it's very normal for different siblings within a family to see mom or dad differently because they all have a different relationship. And so we're kind of the tiebreaker because we don't have any prior relationship with their mom or dad. And so we can really see them objectively because mom may really be very different with one sibling than she is with another, and that doesn't mean she does or doesn't have dementia.
And another thing we do as care managers is we also look at, is this kind of a slow progressive thing over time, or is there a pretty dramatic change over maybe a number of days? Because if it's dramatic, it may be something medically related going on. Maybe it warrants a visit with the primary care physician, which is a great opportunity for the adult children to get a sense of what's going on.
And Deborah Levy, Elder Care Associates in the Option Group being in the Baltimore area, Deborah Levy, Elder Care Associates being in the DC area. They really are a wonderful, aging life care managers are a wonderful resource to help navigate that. And like you said, be that tiebreaker to help pull things together for a family when they can't come to a consensus on what is needed, and having the background that you both do to examine all the facts, all the information, all the examples.
And if you know mom or dad has an appointment coming up and you have a concern, you can always share information and observations with that doctor prior to. Even if you're not medical power of attorney, you're not asking them to share information, you're just giving them some insight. Because in that 15 or 20-minute appointment, your mom or dad may appear to be just like they have always been, and the doctor may not realize issues like with the scratches on the car or the scorched pans or the observations that you've seen, and that gives them an opportunity to open a different conversation with your mom or dad when they are seeing the doctor.
Yeah, and it's the same thing, like get with somebody who's at a doctor's appointment for such a short period of time, just like with the sibling that maybe doesn't see them that often, the doctor might not see everything, so you bring up a great point, Susie. Anything else about getting siblings to involved or understand a little bit better about if you're concerned about memory? Anything else that anybody would like to share before we move on? Any other physical signs? We're talking about memory, but physical is sometimes a little easier to see, but what kind of physical red flags do you all see in the Brightview Senior Living communities that you manage or in your care management practices? Let's start with you ladies.
So I think weight loss is probably the number one sign that everyone can see.
Yep.
Looks a little more drawn, maybe more dehydrated because they're not getting, you know, the meals consistently, or, you know, had breakfast and don't do lunch but having dinner. So, you know, weight loss for multiple reasons. You know, taste buds might be changing, so things that they enjoyed before may not be enjoying the same. You know, using those techniques of adding like sweeteners or salts or flavors to food to make them more appealing. But certainly weight loss is a concern. And then along with that oftentimes is the dehydration. So you want to look for, you know, healthy skin and good coloring and making sure that there's plenty of fluids and liquids available in the refrigerator for them to have.
Sure. And I think, you know, frequent hospitalizations, the number one cause in seniors for having to go back to the hospital for multiple recurrences of problems that are medical conditions. It could be shortness of breath. You know, that's medication mismanagement, and so being able to link to say, you know, we get them stabilized for their congestive heart failure, and then we're back there again next week, and they've explained the diet that they need to have, and they have their medicines. Well, are they able to manage that, and do they remember to take their medicines, or do they remember what diet they need to be on? So I think just, you know, including that in your thought of, yes, there may be physical medical problems that are sending them back to the hospital, but could those be impacted by memory loss of how to control those medical problems when they're not in the hospital setting?
Yeah, so there's an interaction between what's going on physically and cognitively, but also I think anybody who's watching, you can, if you're on a couple medicines, sometimes you do forget, did I take that, or you know, is this okay for my diet that the doctor said? So even if you don't have a cognitive condition, it can be an issue as well. What about you all? What do you think about, Ellen, what do you think about physical stuff that people should be looking for?
One of the things that's not exactly physical, but it could be a medical component, is looking at depression, seeing how isolated they are. Are they still getting together with their friends, or are they withdrawing from things that they used to do on a regular basis? Sometimes it's just logistics. you know, my friends are sick or nobody's driving anymore, we don't have the opportunity. But sometimes it is that somebody's withdrawing and they're just choosing not to do those things. So they stay at home more and they may not be out there like they used to, and not having that peer interaction, which is so important.
And I would also look not just at weight loss, but potentially weight gain. You know, maybe somebody's eating multiple meals, you know, 2 breakfasts rather than just one. And also looking in the cupboards, what are the foods that they're keeping around? Is it a lot of donuts and cookies and things like that? I once had a client, they were having difficulty cooking for themselves. They both had some memory issues, and she said, I just found the greatest thing. We both love it. And she brought out this enormous bag of sour cream and onion potato chips. And she said, we just have a bowl full for lunch, and it's great. We don't have to cook it or anything. And I love a potato chip as much as the next person, but, you know, as a substitute for lunch, it wasn't really optimal.
But not every day, at least.
Right,
Yes. Anything else physically that anyone would like to share? Any physical observations that that families should be on the lookout for around the holidays?
Again, I think, you know, visually, how are they walking, or do they have unexplained bruises or injuries that you're noticing? Or are their glasses in repair, their hearing aids, can they hear you, can they
Yes,
see,
right.
can they read the newspaper with their glasses? What is the, you know, in what status are they to help them with
I'm
things
glad
that
you
are
mentioned
helpful?
hearing loss, because that's a big one. And hearing loss, people can think that there's confusion, but really they're just not hearing.
Sure.
And one of the very most basic things is just getting your ears checked for earwax buildup. You know, it may not necessarily be that we need hearing aids or new hearing aids, but just that there's a lot of wax buildup. And that's so easy to rule out with a
And a
visit
lot of
to the
people
primary
wouldn't think
care.
of that. It's such a great point. What about financial habits? Like, what might concern a what should a family member be concerned about when it has to do with money or financial habits? What would you say, Laura?
So certainly misplaced mail or forgetting to pay bills. So finding stacks of things that you're not sure if they've been paid, it's certainly of concern for memory loss as well. But I think it can also go the opposite direction. You may see that mom has suddenly begun shopping off of QVC, or, you know, there's packages that are coming every single day that you are there visiting with them of different things that they've been ordering. Again, can be a signal that there may be something else going on as well.
Or if they're doing the donation, so if they give to a charity, you know, maybe checking their mail, because even what we find in the assisted living, our residents who get mail, you know, sometimes they're like, oh, hand me my mail. You'll see an excessive amount of charities asking for a donation, because once they've kind of given to one, it seems, you know, people find that they're willing to give to charity. So kind of going through the mail to see, you know, are they giving to all these different organizations who are asking? So, you know, not being careless with funds, but they may not have the financial means to be able to give
Right.
to everyone.
Sure.
And do they have the ability to make that selection, or who they'd like to give to, that type of thing, to make sure they still have the financial means to make it through their month with the food they need and the other services they need.
What else, Emily?
Scams are really big too, especially when somebody's starting to have some cognitive decline. People sometimes come out of the woodwork because they realize there's an opportunity there to be able to get some money. So it might be online, it could be by phone. You might see a handyman who's showing up every other day to do another service, and so when you start seeing people that you didn't normally see in your parents' lives, that might be a red flag.
Or a handyman who refuses to meet with you and your parents, who won't come around if you're there, will only come around. They can talk to your mom or dad alone. That's
Such
a real
red flag. Any kind of helper
Right.
that won't meet with the adult kids or the other loved ones.
Right.
Absolutely. Anything else financial that we should keep an eye on, especially around the holiday season?
Well, one thing would be, you know, if dad was the one who usually did balancing a checkbook or paying the bills, or mom, and that person perhaps is deceased now and the surviving spouse is trying to keep up with a lot of different things, maybe it's something they were never that comfortable with, and maybe they'd be interested in having a daily money manager,
Right.
helping with some of these tasks that they really were never all that comfortable with, and then you've got a little bit of oversight in there as well to provide support.
Or check the credit card statement to see if there's something typical or atypical on the bill.
And this, what Susie just brought up about a daily money manager, that, again, this is one of the benefits of working with a care manager, because they think of all these resources that are available. So that's a great suggestion. Anything else financial that folks should be worried about or look at if they see it over the holiday season?
I just think it's also important to have that conversation oftentimes before the cognition may be impaired, but even so at the very beginning, to know that, you know, can you join their checking account, or can you have access, and have that power of attorney conversation possibly, you know, before this comes up or around the beginning phases of things that you're seeing, so that money is protected and that people aren't being taken advantage of, because it gets very complicated to then become power of attorney or get access to funds if someone does become deemed incompetent from cognitive impairment, and then oftentimes the family is going through a struggle of, you know, not having access, not being able to help the person get the resources they need, whether that's at home or in a community. It's harder to do that when you don't have access to those items.
Right.
The power of attorney is a great point, not just even financially, but having that conversation proactively to identify who of your siblings, if you have multiple, are going to take that lead with your parents to help make decisions, financial, healthcare decisions, any of those types of decisions in advance. If you have the luxury of doing that, it is very good.
Anything else that anybody would like to add about the financial conversation?
So with the powers of attorney, we really encourage our adult children to talk about that they've done it themselves. And I recently had an adult daughter who didn't even know that she should. And I said, if you're over 21 and you own property, you should really have a financial and medical power of attorney. And so then she was able to use that as a way to talk to her parents. Oh, we had no idea. So my husband and I are meeting with this attorney. And then that opens the conversation and gives your parents a chance to understand it's not just because they're older, it's not just because you're worried about them, but it's something that's a normal thing that everybody should have in place, sort of as a plan B, just in case I need some help.
Such a good strategy. Such a good strategy. Anything else, financially speaking? The only other thing I would like to add to the conversation is FINRA, who actually regulates stockbrokers and financial planners. In this year, February 2018, they passed a regulation that if a financial planner is worried about cognition, that they have the right now to contact the trusted contact person. So that's another thing for if your loved one has a stockbroker or a financial planner like a CFP, get on that file as the trusted contact, because if there is an untoward handyman or home care aide or anything, or if they just say, hey, I'm going to cash out my account and go to Tahiti, that they can contact your loved one, only if they're concerned about cognition, though.
It's really important for the people that are around your mom and dad, if you live in a different area, for them to know how to reach you if there's a concern, whether it's a neighbor, their pastor, good friend, or whatever, because sometimes people will say, we didn't know who to call. We all were very worried, but we really didn't know who to call.
And that's what makes care managers invaluable in so many of these instances. So let's talk about social life and socialization. It's something I think a lot of us, we're worried about the cognitive health and the mental health and the physical health, but socialization is so important. So Heather, let's start with you. What do you want to note about your loved one's socialization and their social life?
I think as you know your loved one, you know what their calendar and social life always look like. Is any of that still happening? So I know Ellen referred to, you know, are they still seeing their friends on a regular basis? They get to the point where friends are sick or they can't see people, but are they still doing those visits? Even if someone is ill, are they going to their house and dropping off soup? Or, you know, is there still a social calendar in existence? You know, do they go to the local senior center and participate in activities? There's lots and lots of clubs and organizations for seniors to be very involved. So if you're seeing, you know, your loved one more just at home, or the TV's always on, or they know every episode of what's happening and can talk to you about that, you know, what is their social life like? So it shouldn't be that different. There can still be a very active social calendar. And you might say, you know, hey mom, what'd you do yesterday? What was your social part of yesterday? To see if they are still participating regularly. For some people, that's, you know, going out shopping and talking to people at the grocery store, but having not just being isolated in your own house, not having conversation with others, and those are the important pieces that, you know, either care managers or communities can assist with, making sure people have others around them to keep their mind stimulated and to get them physically involved in exercise and programs and things.
Laura, how about you?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, your quality of life is important to everyone. whether you are still able to get to all those senior centers and you have a very active social life and you are thriving at home as a senior, that's fantastic. But the quality of life, even with someone that has memory care, is so important to continue to keep people engaged and stimulated. If their life routine is watching Family Feud followed by Maury Povich, there's that's great. We love the Family Feud, but there has to be more to life than just sitting in front of the TV all day, and that is not a substitute for stimulation and still learning things and enjoying fun. So again, I think it's looking at what their daily routine is and how are they able to enhance that socially with different resources that are available.
Absolutely.
And regardless of age, people can still make new friends.
Absolutely.
I think that's, we're not thinking like it's, elementary school where, I have to meet a new friend. But, all of us as humans can constantly build relationships and have a new rapport and develop that communication. So, oftentimes even when we do visits in our community, when a family comes in or a resident comes in to tour our community, just by going into the dining room and having a meal as part of the visit, they engage with new people, they find new interests, they find people that have similar likes as they do. So it really is important to remember you can always engage in new relationships throughout life.
For those that are more cognitively progressed with cognitive impairment, you might want to rethink the schedule in terms of interaction with peers. It might be adult daycare, it might be bringing the home care person in to engage them and keep them busy, so it might be rethinking what they used to do and thinking of a new way that's going to fit with their capabilities.
Also, if they're used to being part of a faith community, and that's kind of dropped off their radar, letting the clergy know, and then seeing is there a group within that faith community that does outreach, that does friendly visits at home, perhaps gives communion at home, or some of the other things that they might enjoy, but they just find it harder to get out, to get to that faith community on a regular basis, and that can still help them feel connected to something that may have been important through their whole life.
Yeah, the faith community and adult day, great suggestions. And I know before we started the panel discussion, one of the things that we were all talking about is a lot of times people think about senior living, oh, mom's got dementia or mom has a physical ailment, but so much of it is really that social component that Brightview Senior Living can provide through the SPICE and all the wonderful activities and programs and trips. So it's sometimes that's a good enough reason to take a look and see if there's not enough socialization in that person's life. What about if you do see challenges over the holidays? You're celebrating the holidays, you're having a great time. How do you have a conversation with your loved one about it? I'll start with Susie on that one. Where do you start?
Well, I recently gave a presentation, and one of the people at the presentation was the older adult, and her kids sounded like they were in their 30s with young children and busy jobs. And she said, we keep trying to get our kids to sit down so we can explain to them what we want and what we have set up. And they keep saying, no, nothing's happening, you're fine, we don't. And so you might want to just be aware, maybe your parents really do want to have that conversation with you, and are you open to it? So it is really a two-way street. So maybe just, floating that little trial balloon, Mom, we've never really sat down and talked about this. Is this something that you're ready to talk to us about, what your thoughts are and how you would like us to be able to help if and when that's needed?
Yeah, so sometimes it's not even on the adult kids' radar screen. It's
Right.
on the older person's, and
Right.
the adult kids don't even realize it. How about you, Ellen? What do you think?
I get lots of calls around the holidays because family is in town and they're realizing there's a lot going on since their last visit. And so I suggest not having that conversation at the Christmas table or the Thanksgiving table, but maybe setting aside time while family is still in town to have a conversation together as a family or with a mediator or a care manager to kind of process some of it and figure out where we need to navigate.
Right, still enjoy your holiday party, your holiday meal, but still have that conversation while people are in town.
And I think it's important to stay calm and patient, because it can be frustrating for both sides, especially if your loved one doesn't want to have that discussion or they begin to sort of resist the conversation. Just remembering that they are your parent and you remain respectful of that, but also that they are an adult. So oftentimes people try to to talk in a way that you make it seem more childlike, and it is your parent regardless. So just remembering those tips and remembering to be patient, and it could be a long and difficult conversation, but if everyone stays calm and tries to really work through it, oftentimes you're making some sort of progress with each conversation that you have.
Definitely.
Yeah, I think it's very important to the point of kind of checking yourself and evaluating yourself of how are you going to present this, and really trying to get yourself on board. Many times it is a relief to your senior parent that you're the one bringing this up, because there can be a lot of guilt of selling the home where my children grew up, or downsizing through all of these things that we've had for my children's whole lives. That can be a lot of stress on the adult parent. So as a child, if you can kind of check to say, I need to get myself framed first, and kind of come to terms that perhaps this might be the best for my parent. And again, coming at it from a place of love, that this isn't some place that you are going to be placed, but this is going to be such an enhancement to your quality of life, and that this community is going to be fun and provide those resources and your friendships and the things that you might not be able to help your parent with every day if you live out of town or things, so that you're really wanting the best for them. As a place where you have this problem, and so now you have to go here. That is a very different, going to be presented very differently than if you're really supportive of it for your family member as well.
And make
Well
them part of the
said.
decision. You know, oftentimes we're
Yeah.
making a decision for someone who's very capable of making a decision, and, you know, have them visit the community with you, have them, you know, join in for a meal or attend an activity to see how they feel, because, you know, it can be the newest model, the prettiest place. If the feeling isn't there, it may not be the
Sure.
right spot for that person.
Right.
So just making that decision, as Laura said, and placing someone is not what this time frame should be about. It should be about doing this together for those who are able to be part of making that decision, and feeling the comfort and being able to ask their own questions and feel reassured through the process.
Yeah, to see if it's a good fit.
Absolutely. You have to do your research. I mean, even within different Brightview senior living communities, every community that you will walk in has a different feel and a different culture, a different vibe, and you do need to find the one that's going to be the right fit for your parent. So doing research, but not from the perspective of that, you know, that you're drudging around, but doing fun things. You know, maybe you don't know that you can come to happy hour every day of the week, or maybe you could come to see a movie if that's what your parents might like to do. There's different things. It's not that you have to come for the sales and marketing perspective. You can go and just experience life like you're trialing it out to see kind of what the culture of that community is like. And that may sometimes is more easily accepted if we're going to go out to lunch and you happen to come out to lunch to our bistro. So those are options as well.
Absolutely. Anything else that you'd like to add?
Yeah, we often, as aging life care managers, have the adult children meet with us first. They ask for a meeting first, so they really understand who we are and how we can help. Sometimes they may even pay for that initial assessment for their parents, but when they introduce the concept of who we are and what we can do, you know, we'll say, you know, it's like a real estate agent. You wouldn't just put a sign in front of your house that says for sale and somebody writes you a check. There's somebody who helps you. How should you price your house, all of that. That aging life care manager is the professional who can guide the parents. And sometimes taking the adult children out of that conversation and letting them have a conversation with a professional, and this is all that we do, that's also very reassuring to the parent, because then they're really able to share things that they may not feel as comfortable sharing with their adult children.
Yeah, we see that all the time.
And it helps them feel more in control of the process, and
Right.
it's so important, especially if there's not cognitive impairment. They are grown up. They do get to make this decision. So, anything else that anybody would like to add about having a conversation after the holidays? After you have this experience with your loved one, you're concerned about some changes, but you know, after the holidays, not the holiday dinner or the holiday party. Anything else anyone would like to add?
I think treasuring the experience that you have with your parent. You know, even with memory care, like I said, your quality of life is important everywhere. So yes, your parent may have memory loss. There are still ways to find joy and enjoy your relationship with your parent that has memory loss. This isn't necessarily, you know, a diagnosis for a terminal condition that you're going to suffer through. There is joy and vibrancy that you can still find with that one, and there are resources to help you learn how to do that, because it is something that is new for you as well as it is for them. So just looking for the resources that are available to try to find your way through that next step of your relationship.
Wow, so well said, and what a great way to wrap up. I want to thank our panel, Heather, Laura, Susie, and Ellen, and I want to encourage everybody to write in any questions that you might have for after the holidays. So what happens during the holidays if you run into any roadblocks or obstacles and you want the panel or another Facebook Live to address it? We're going to do another one in January, another Brightview Senior Living Facebook Live. If you have any questions, please call your local Brightview Senior Living, and you can find your local one at brightviewseniorliving.com. 36 communities in 8 states. There's got to be one near you. Thank you all for joining us, and have a wonderful holiday season.